It's now time for your favorite in-depth basketball show with the myths, the legends, Nard Dogg and Raindrops the
Well, it's been a while, but we are back. Welcome to another episode of Full Court Press. I'm Justin Raindrops Goulet, joined as always by the man, the myth, the legend, the one and only Nard Dogg, David Bernardi. How's it going, Nard Dogg?
It's going good. I'm just doing the Nard Dogg things every Nard Dogg day.
That's what I like to hear, buddy. Fantastic. Looking forward to chatting with you as to what is going on in the world of basketball. Now, we couldn't start off this episode any other way. We need to salute one of the all-time great personalities in sports, Mr. Craig Sager, who unfortunately lost his battle with cancer not too long ago at the age of 65. Now, Nard Dogg, I know you're a huge Craig Sager fan, as was everyone. I don't think there's ever been a bad thing said about him. What are your thoughts on Craig Sager?
It really hurt. When I heard the news on Thursday afternoon, I felt it. I felt the pain. And it sucked. Like, he had a 2-year battle with this cancer. I hate cancer. It's a terrible thing. And it just sucks that it took away, in my opinion, the best sideline reporter in sports.
Couldn't agree more. Cancer sucks, plain and simple. No one likes cancer. It's an absolutely awful disease, and it's taken so many lives of so many great people. It's very sad to see Craig lose his battle. Very strong, like you said.
He was only 65.
Only 65 years old. He went out fighting. Sager strong, no doubt. 2 years battling this illness. He went out strong, and he's definitely a legend in sports. One of the all-time greats, and he kind of, for me, he's like basketball's Don Cherry. I don't think you're ever going to forget Sager's outfits, the flashiest outfits in basketball. We've talked about Allen Iverson before, how he was a huge influence on fashion in the world of basketball, but Craig Sager, huge influence on fashion in the NBA and in sports in general. Just what a character.
Yeah, I love those outfits, and it was always funny seeing Kevin Garnett just ripping on him, both those outfits, Shaq. It was hilarious, but Craig was always a professional, did his job, and the best thing about him is he was such a great interviewer. And that's why all these NBA players, coaches love being interviewed by him, especially Greg Popovich, who hates getting interviewed, but he always took the time with Sager.
Yeah, because he was a total professional. He knew what he was doing. He was a master at his craft, and he just had that good relationship with the players and the coaches, with everyone around the league. And he's a true gentleman. You could say that.
And all these players have been talking about how their first ever interview in the NBA was after they got drafted, right? And it was Craig Sager. Like, we even saw the likes of Valanciunas pay tribute, saying his first interview was on draft night with Sager. Grant Hill talked about it. Like, they all talked about it.
Unreal. Craig Sager is definitely a legend who certainly left his mark in the world of sports.
And Shaq was also saying how you knew you were a superstar when you were getting interviewed by Craig Sager, because it would always be late in the playoffs or NBA Finals.
Yeah, that big-time atmosphere. It's almost like you made it. You're interviewed by Craig Sager. It's awesome to see, and just listening to the guys on TNT like Kenny the Jet Smith saying that he had never heard a negative thing said about Craig Sager.
And we saw last year how Sager got that one game in the NBA Finals, and he interviewed LeBron James and everything. It was great.
Great to see that. Craig Sager, no doubt, a true legend. He's gone, but he's one of those guys never going to be forgotten, just leaving an incredible legacy behind.
Yeah, and everyone's got to check out the eulogy Ernie Johnson gave today. It's going to get you teary-eyed, for sure.
Yeah, a lot of emotions being felt around the world of sports with the passing of Craig Sager.
Gone, but definitely not forgotten.
Definitely not forgotten. Couldn't agree more. Now, someone else that has a huge legacy that will live on forever. A guy that's still with us, Mr. Tim Duncan. Tim Duncan, of course, retired from playing basketball, but his jersey up in the rafters in San Antonio. How great was it to see that?
It was awesome. I watched every bit of that. we heard from Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker, and Greg Popovich. They all gave a speech to him saying how much he meant to them and the franchise and the game of basketball.
Fantastic to see that, joining the likes of guys like the Admiral David Robinson and the sharpshooter Mr. Bruce Bowen. Great to see Tim Duncan's jersey up in the rafters in San Antonio. And you mentioned Ginobili and Tony Parker. Those are two guys. Their jerseys are going to be joining him once they hang up their sneakers.
Oh, and I'd say probably Hall of Fame too.
Yep, I agree with you on that one. Ginobili and Tony Parker, future Hall of Famers, no doubt. You just look at their careers and look at Tim Duncan. Not even, like, the numbers are impressive and everything he was able to do, but just his impact on the game. And one of the best big men of all time. One of the best, if not the best, power forward of all time. Just an absolutely incredible player.
Best of all time. There's no question. He's the best of all time.
The big fundamentals. He just kept his game simple, and look where it got him. Multiple-time NBA champion, multiple All-Star games. Yeah. Incredible career. He checked basically everything off that bucket list for basketball players at the pro level.
And it's funny, like, that basketball wasn't even his first choice in sports. It was always swimming. He picked up basketball late in his teens, and look where it got him.
Yeah, I think he did pretty well in basketball.
And then I was watching Greg Popovich talk about Duncan, and you will not find a better coach-player relationship in all of sports. You can't.
Because they're linked. You know, you can tell that they're family. And they just work so well together. When you think of, well, at least to me, when I think of San Antonio Spurs, I think of Greg Popovich and Tim Duncan. That's the first thing that comes to mind. They're synonymous with that franchise, and they always will be.
Yeah, and it's just awesome. Greg Popovich was like a second father to Duncan. It's just good to hear the things that were said about Duncan in that whole ceremony. Yeah,
he's one of those guys that is got to be remembered for just playing that basic basketball, but he made it work.
Not saying much, just doing his job.
Yeah, just going in and doing his job. Tim Duncan, never flashy. But
just a true professional.
Exactly. He went in and he did what he was supposed to do, and look where it got him. Future Hall of Famer, jersey up in the rafters in San Antonio, and one of the all-time greats, no doubt. Now, Tim Duncan, multiple-time All-Stars, we were saying. The NBA, they've kind of made some changes to the All-Star game. The All-Star voting, to be a little bit more specific, and voting in the starters. Now, up until this point, it's the fans who voted for the starters. But now, the media and players are going to be able to vote for starters as well, starting with the 2017 All-Star game. What do you think about all that? Do you think it's a good idea?
I'm undecided about it, but I don't know. The players voting, that's just... I don't know how that sits with me.
Personally, I like it.
You do?
I like it. I think the players should have a say because you're voting in your peers. Now, you kind of... hopefully there's no jealousy that comes into play or anything like that. They're disallowing some guy. They're not voting for someone because, hey, you're on another team and I have a little rivalry with you. Hopefully they take that away and just look at the players for what they do on the court. But I think, you have the players vote, and it just adds that little extra element to voting in the starters because the fans are still going to get to vote, which I think is nice because it is the All-Star Showcase. It's for entertainment. It's to make the fans happy. But there have been some cases where guys who are injured got voted in as starters. But maybe that won't happen again. I think it could work.
I think they should make it a limit of how many games a player should play. If he doesn't reach that amount of games played, then he should not be voted on starter. I think it's that simple.
That's a good idea. Yeah, I think they might do it this year and see how it all pans out. Then maybe do some fine-tuning, tweak some things in there. I think that could be a smart stipulation. I think that could be fair.
One thing is for sure, if Damian Lillard doesn't get into the All-Star game, then something is definitely wrong with the NBA.
And we're boycotting the All-Star game forever.
That dude should not in the All-Star game. He should be in that most definitely.
If Damian Lillard isn't going to be a starter for the All-Star game, he needs to be in the All-Star game playing as a reserve because that guy is so damn good.
His team's not the greatest, but he's definitely one of the best players in the NBA, and there's no chance he should be screwed this year.
Yeah, he's been screwed in the past, and I think it's time for no more. Damian Lillard, get him in the All-Star game.
And don't forget to vote for Kyle Lowry.
Don't forget to vote for Kyle Lowry. And DeMar. Can't forget DeMar either.
Oh, for sure. He's definitely worthy of a starting spot, too.
This season, DeMar DeRozan's been playing at the top level. He's been playing at the top of his game. He's been unreal.
Yeah, he was named Eastern Conference Player of the Week today.
Oh, it's fantastic. There you go. Great. That's great for him, and hopefully he can keep that play up. Now, you're talking about All-Stars. Of course, LeBron's going to be in the All-Star game. Kyrie Irving's going to be in the All-Star game. Now, not too long ago, the Cavs, they sat some of their players. They sat LeBron. They sat Kyrie, if I'm not mistaken. Do you have any thoughts on these teams sitting their star players, sitting a guy like LeBron James? Do you think that's unfair? Personally, well, I'll ask you first. What do you think about all that? Do you think that teams shouldn't be allowed to do that, or do you think they should? It should be okay for these teams to sit their superstars every once in a while.
Well, getting back to the Spurs, we've seen Greg Popovich do it a bunch of times with Duncan, Ginobili, Parker, etc. And I don't know. I think maybe sitting all three players of your three best players in the game, I don't know. I don't know if that's right. Like maybe sitting out one or two, but your three best players, it just gives no respect to that other team. Like they did that against the Grizzlies. And yes, the Grizzlies are without some players. But come on. I don't know.
I think you're allowed to do that. Coaches,
Yeah.
they're allowed to do that. It's not against the rules or anything. But my problem with that is that say there's a father and son, because the first Raptors game I went to is me and my dad, and I got to see all my favorite players. I'm pretty sure I got to see Vince Carter play. I got to see Bosch play in his rookie season. But say there's a father and son, and they saved up a bunch of money. This guy's worked really hard to save up money for an NBA ticket, which is not cheap, especially if you're going to see a team like the Cavs. Yeah. And his son, and the father too, they're excited to see a guy like LeBron James. How disappointed, how crushing is that going to be when they get to the arena and see LeBron in a suit? LeBron's not playing for the game. I think that's just disrespectful to the fans. If you're going to be sitting these star players, because athletes, I know they work so hard and they put their body, they do so much to their body because it's such a strenuous thing because they're constantly working out, constantly moving and keeping themselves in that tip-top shape. But I think it's just sort of disrespectful to people that are paying these crazy amounts on ticket prices that they want to be entertained by the likes of LeBron James. And I know I'm kind of targeting LeBron James right now. I'm a huge fan of LeBron James. I like LeBron. I always have. But yeah. But I think it's just disrespectful to the fans. If you're going to be sitting these guys, and I know that they play so many games per season and they get exhausted and they got to keep their bodies in shape so they can play for a number of years going forward. But that kid who goes to that game all excited to see his favorite player, LeBron James, or someone like Kyrie Irving, if they're excited to see these guys and then they find out that they're sitting, that's good. It's going to ruin their night. And as you said, it's sort of disrespectful to the other team because it's like, hey, we don't need to play these guys because you're a bunch of chumps. So I'm not really a big fan of it.
I think it's kind of iffy that they're doing it at the start of the season, pretty much. Like maybe like close to the end of the season, maybe it makes sense, but
because like
games into the season
with a team like the Raptors or the Cavs, like say there's 4 or 5 games left in the season. You could sit Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozan for like 3 of those 4 to 5 games if you want because you're resting them for the playoffs, and that's at the end of the season. But it's so early into the season. It's like, come on, like, what's the point of doing that?
At least have them play the first quarter or something.
Yeah, get them in there. It's just it's when I saw that, it's just something that It grinds my gears a little bit. But I don't know if grinds my gears. I don't know if it's going to change. Maybe one day it will. And yes, I do understand that these guys work so hard and their body is under so much stress because they have to keep themselves in top shape. But really, these fans are paying so much to go see these guys play. And so when they get there and they're not playing, it's like, did I waste my money?
Or maybe the NBA should just be more competitive so that the Cavs don't have to sit out their superstar players.
Well, there you go. That's another thought. That's a good thought. And also another idea that I've seen floating around is shortening the NBA season.
Shortening it? I don't know. To what? Was it like 68 games or something like that?
I think, like 64 or 68 games, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, we'll see what happens going forward, but those are my thoughts on that. Now, the Toronto Raptors, going into the new year, 2017, the start of the season has been great for the Raptors. They've been killing it. DeMar DeRozan is playing the best basketball of his career. Kyle Lowry has had some really great games. How do you think the Raptors are going to do going into the new year in 2017? How do you think the Raptors, things are going to pan out for them?
I think they'll win pretty much the same amount, 55, 60 games. But that's not the thing. Yes, they'll do that. They'll finish second in the East, but that's about it. Because they're not beating the Cavaliers without a third superstar. If Masai Ujiri doesn't go out and get a third superstar at the trade deadline in February, then sorry, Raptors fans. All we're going to get is the conference finals at least. That's about it.
Do you think that superstar has to be DeMarcus Cousins?
It doesn't have to be DeMarcus Cousins. It just has to be a third superstar. Yes, Cousins is ideal, but case in point, they just need a third superstar if they want to compete with the Cavs. Because they're not going to beat LeBron James with just Lowry and DeRozan.
No, I don't think, because sure, they beat the Cavs twice in the Eastern Conference Finals, handed them their first loss at the playoffs last year, but when it came down to the wire, the Cavs took control and dominated the Raptors to make it to the NBA Finals. So,
and I love these Raptors, but the truth is, and people need to realize this, they're not going to do squat without a third superstar. And that's just how the NBA is. Now look at the Warriors. Look at the Spurs. It's just, look at the Clippers.
You need that big three, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because you look at the Cavs. Yeah, you got LeBron, Kyrie Irving, and Kevin Love.
It's just, I like Valanciunas, but he's just not that good enough.
He's not at that superstar level yet. And I say yet because he could get to that point in his career, I think.
And this truly sucks for Raptors fans because the one time the Raptors are amazing. Like they're the second best offensive team in the league this season behind the Warriors. Yep. And they can't go to the NBA Finals because of one guy named LeBron James.
Mm-hmm. Who sits some games every once in a while. Oh, that was a cheap shot. I'm sorry, that was a cheap shot.
But the Raptors are going to be doing that this season.
Yeah. Yeah. So I hope the best for the Raptors. Masai Ujiri, in Masai we trust. I still hold on to that. I trust Masai Ujiri. He knows what he's doing. I would be happy if they did something before the trade deadline or at the trade deadline. I'd be happy if they made some moves. And if we were to get DeMarcus Cousins, it would suck to see Jonas Valanciunas off to Sacramento, but I would welcome DeMarcus Cousins because as we've discussed before, he's friends with both Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozan, so I think he'd be a little bit... Pardon?
And Drake.
Yeah, there you go. So I think he'd be a little bit happier in Toronto than in Sacramento. So my hope would be that the attitude problems wouldn't really come into effect with DeMarcus Cousins if he were to play for the Raptors.
Yeah, and there's even a guy like, say, Marcus Gasol. Maybe he can be had. You never know.
Yeah, he could fit into the rotation. So we will see what happens going forward into 2017. 2016's been a wild year. I'm looking forward to see what happens come the new year.
Most definitely.
Well, Nard Dogg, If people want to discuss this further with you, how can they do so? Twitter, Instagram, all that jazz.
Well, basically all my handles are at David Bernardi 7.
Right on. 7 is. I want to ask. Is 7? I never actually asked you that. Is 7 in honor of Kyle Lowry? You could say yes if that's true.
No. It's just my favorite number.
Oh, right on. Well, there you go.
It's actually in honor of Chris Chelios of the Blackhawks.
Ah, Chelly. Nice.
Shelly.
Right on. And if you want to discuss anything further with me, you can connect with me on Twitter or Instagram at JustinGoulet21. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Full Court Press. Make sure you check out the Facebook page, and there's a link to our YouTube channel on there as well for past episodes of Full Court Press and all future episodes of FCP. And that's going to wrap things up on 2016. Merry Christmas and happy holidays. And of course, a happy, safe, and healthy new year. I'm Justin Raindrops Goulet.
And I'm the Nard Dogg, David Bernardi.
And we will catch you in 2017.
And as always, forever Sager strong.
You've just been hit with Full Court Press. Courtesy of the men, the myths, the legends, Nard Dogg, and Raindrops Goulet.